On Mother's Day, all my siblings organized a special breakfast for my mom. I wasn't invited. I found out through a photo in the family group chat. When I called her, she told me she never wanted to be a mother again. That night, I eliminated her from my life. What I sent her a week later made her cry in public. It was a Sunday like any other, or at least that's what I thought while reviewing some pending reports for Monday. At 32, I had managed to establish myself as a marketing coordinator at a cosmetics company. It wasn't my dream job, but it paid the bills and allowed me to keep my small apartment. The relationship with my family had always been complicated, especially with Mom. My phone vibrated on the table, another notification from the family WhatsApp group. I normally ignored them until I had free time, but something made me unlock it at that moment. Perhaps it was intuition, or maybe destiny wanted me to see what was about to break my heart. It was a photo that would change everything. There they were, all three of my older brothers, their partners, some of my nephews, and in the center, Mom, smiling with a paper crown and a cake in front of her. The table was decorated with flowers and balloons. A banner hung on the wall, "Happy Mother's Day to the best." Everyone was toasting in what was clearly Roberto's living room, my older brothers. My stomach churned. I felt as if someone had punched me in the chest. A surprise breakfast for Mom? Why hadn't anyone told me? I checked my phone, desperately searching for a missed message. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. My hands were shaking as I zoomed in on the photo. The smiles, the hugs, the happiness, and I didn't even know they were planning something like this. Roberto's message read, "Thanks everyone for coming to Mom's surprise breakfast." Her face was priceless. Everyone had replied with hearts and congratulations. Everyone knew, except me. The clock read 2:30 p.m. The breakfast must have been hours earlier. I stared at the screen, unable to process why no one thought to include me. How unimportant was I to my own family? I dialed Mom's number with numb fingers. 1 ring, 2 rings. Each second was torture. Finally, she answered, her voice cheerful. "Hello, darling. How are you?" As if nothing had happened. As if I hadn't been deliberately excluded from an important family gathering. "Fine, Mom." I saw the photo of the breakfast in the family group chat. A brief silence. I could imagine her tensing up on the other end of the line. "Oh, yes, it was your brother's idea. Very nice of them. Why didn't they tell me? Why wasn't I invited?" Another silence, longer this time. "I don't know, Carolina. I guess Roberto organized everything and, well, you know how things are." "No, Mom, I don't know how things are. Could you explain it to me?" My voice trembled, but I tried to stay firm. Tears threatened to spill, but I wouldn't give her that satisfaction. "Look, Carolina, it was a last-minute thing." "Last minute?" "The decorations in the photo don't look last minute, Mom. Neither does the personalized cake." I heard her take a deep breath when she spoke again. Her voice had changed. It was cold, distant. "You want to know the truth? Fine. They didn't invite you because I asked them not to." I felt as if the ground beneath my feet had disappeared. "What? Why would you do something like that?" "Because it's always uncomfortable when you're around. There's always tension, always drama. For once, I wanted to enjoy myself peacefully with my children." Her words hit me like slaps. My children, as if I wasn't one of them. "I'm your daughter too, Mom." What she said next destroyed, in seconds, the 32 years of life I had spent trying to earn her approval. I never wanted to be a mother again after Miguel. "You were an accident, Carolina. A mistake I've tried to correct all my life." The phone almost fell from my hands. My own mother had just confirmed what I had always suspected but never dared to confront. She didn't want me. She never had. "Mom, look, I didn't want to be so harsh, but I'm tired of pretending. We've given you everything you needed, but you never fit in with us. It's better that you accept reality." She hung up without saying goodbye, without an "I'm sorry." Nothing. I sat on the sofa with the phone still in my hand, my mind bombarded by memories that I now saw clearly. Like that time when I was 8 and won the spelling bee and mom couldn't attend because she had a migraine, but miraculously got better to go to Roberto's soccer game that same afternoon. Or when I turned 16 and everyone forgot my birthday until 3 days later. I remembered when I was 12 and accidentally broke an antique vase while playing in the house. Mom looked at me with eyes that I now recognize as pure hatred and murmured, "You always ruin everything." At that moment, I thought she meant the vase. Now I understood that she meant her life. The tears finally flowed, but they weren't just of sadness. They were also of rage, of indignation, of 32 years of trying to earn the love of someone who never intended to give it. That night, I made a decision. I blocked Mom's number. I deleted her from my social media. I deleted the family WhatsApp group. It was as if I was performing surgery, cutting the cancer out of my life. With each action, I felt a strange relief mixed with pain. The last thing I did before going to bed was write a note in my diary. Today, I renounce a family that never wanted me. Today, I begin to build my own life. What she didn't know is that this was just the beginning. And what I didn't know is that the hidden truth was much bigger than I could imagine. The following days passed like a blur. I went to work, came home, ate something without wanting to, and stared at the ceiling. No one from my family had called me, not even a message asking if I was okay. Their silence confirmed what I already knew. They really didn't care. It was Thursday when something in me clicked. If I was going to eliminate my mother from my life, I needed to understand why she had always treated me differently. I was no longer a child seeking approval. I was an adult seeking answers. I started with a call to Aunt Eugenia, Dad's sister. She had always been kind to me, although we had rarely seen her since Dad died 5 years ago. When she answered, she sounded genuinely happy to hear from me. "Carolina, what a pleasant surprise. How are you, dear?" Her warm tone almost made me cry. That's how a mother should sound. "And I need to ask you some questions about my childhood, about Mom." The silence on the other end of the line told me everything I needed to know. She knew something. "Dear, there are things that are better left in the past." "No, Aunt, I need to know." Last Sunday, all my siblings organized a breakfast for Mom for Mother's Day, and I wasn't even invited. When I called her, she told me she never wanted to be a mother again after Miguel, that I was a mistake. I heard her let out a heavy sigh. That woman. I always knew she'd end up hurting you like this. "Look, I can't tell you everything over the phone. Can we meet tomorrow? I have some things you should probably see." The next day, I took the day off work and drove 2 hours to Aunt Eugenia's house on the outskirts of the city. When I arrived, she was waiting for me with a worn cardboard box and an expression of concern on her wrinkled face. "Sit down, dear." I made tea. She led me to her small living room, where the box remained closed on the coffee table like a bomb about to explode. "Your father asked me to keep this. He said that someday you might need it, but I hoped that day would never come." She opened the box and took out a yellowish envelope. Inside was a birth certificate, mine, but something was wrong. The father's name wasn't Dad's. It was a name I didn't recognize, Ernesto Vega. What does this mean?" Aunt Eugenia took my hand in hers. "Your mother had an affair with your father's partner at the law firm. When she got pregnant, your father already suspected the baby wasn't his, but he decided to raise you as his own. He loved you from the first moment, Carolina. Never doubt that." My mind tried to process this information. Everything I thought I knew about my life was a lie. Do my siblings know? Roberto and Miguel, yes. They were older when you were born and overheard some arguments. Isabel was very young, probably not. And this man, this Ernesto, does he know about me? Aunt Eugenia pulled another envelope out of the box. "These are letters he wrote to you. Your father intercepted them. Ernesto tried to see you several times when you were little, but your mother wouldn't allow it. She wanted to terminate the pregnancy, but Ernesto threatened to tell your father everything if she did. In the end, your father found out anyway, but by then he loved you too much to let you go." My hands trembled as I opened the first letter. It was dated 3 months after my birth. My dear daughter Carolina, although I can't be with you, I want you to know that I think of you every day. Your mother has decided that it's best for everyone if I stay away, and I respect her decision, even though it breaks my heart. Perhaps someday, when you're older, we can meet. Until then, I will keep your photo close to my heart. With love, your father, Ernesto. Tears streamed down my cheeks as I read letter after letter. There was one for each of my birthdays until I turned 18. Then they stopped. What happened to him? Why did he stop writing? Aunt Eugenia looked down. He moved to Spain after your father died. I think he always respected your mother's marriage, despite everything. When Antonio passed away, he tried to contact you directly, but your mother threatened him. I don't know exactly with what. There was one last letter at the bottom of the envelope, dated 5 years ago, shortly after Dad's funeral. Carolina, 30 years have passed since your birth. 30 years in which I haven't been able to hug you, see you grow, celebrate your achievements. Your father has passed away, and although I will always be grateful to him for taking care of you as he did, I feel it's time for you to know the truth. I am in Madrid, where I have a small restaurant. If you ever want to find me, I'll be waiting. With eternal love, Ernesto. At the end of the letter, there was a phone number and an address. My brain was working at full speed, connecting the dots. Mom's coldness, the favoritism towards my brothers, everything made sense now. I wasn't just an unwanted pregnancy. I was living proof of her infidelity. I spent the rest of the afternoon reviewing the contents of the box with Aunt Eugenia. There were photos of a tall, dark-skinned man who looked surprisingly like me. He had my eyes, my smile. There were newspaper clippings about his achievements as a lawyer and then as a restaurateur. There was even a photo of him with me as a baby, probably taken at some fleeting moment when he managed to see me. When I returned to my apartment that night, I had 3 missed calls from Roberto. Finally, he was worried. Or maybe Mom had told him something. I called him back. Where have you been? I've been calling you all day. His tone was accusatory, as if I had done something wrong. I was discovering the truth, Roberto. About who my real father is. About why Mom has always hated me. Silence, then a sigh. Carolina, you shouldn't have found out like this. You knew all this time. You knew, and you never told me anything. It was complicated. Dad made us promise we'd never talk about it. He said you were his daughter, regardless of biology. And the breakfast on Sunday? That was Dad's idea too? To exclude me from the family. Roberto at least had the decency to sound ashamed. That was different. Mom said you two had argued, that you didn't want to see her. Lie. She told me she asked them not to invite me, that she never wanted to be a mother again after Miguel, that I was a mistake. Another silence, longer this time. I'm sorry, Carolina. I should have called you directly. Not trust what Mom said. Why didn't you ever defend me, Roberto? Why didn't any of you say anything when she treated me differently? Because it was easier to go along with it. Because Dad asked us not to upset things. Because we were cowards. At least he had the honesty to admit it. But it was too late. Too many years of pain and exclusion. You know what? It doesn't matter anymore. Now I understand why I was always the odd one out, the one who didn't fit in. I have a biological father who has been waiting to meet me for 30 years, while I lived with a woman who hated me and siblings who were too cowardly to defend me. Carolina, please, can we talk about this? Can we fix it? No, Roberto. There's nothing to fix. I just wanted you to know the truth. The whole truth. I hung up before he could answer. I sat on my sofa, looking at all the evidence scattered on the coffee table. 32 years of lies. 32 years of trying to earn the love of a mother who couldn't love me because I reminded her of her infidelity. 32 years separated from a man who really wanted to be my father. I picked up the most recent letter from Ernesto and reread it. If you ever want to find me, I'll be waiting. The decision was made. But first, I had one last score to settle with the woman who called herself my mother. I spent the next few days meticulously planning my response. It wouldn't be an outburst of anger, but something calculated, something that would finally make her feel a fraction of the pain I had felt all my life. Something to remind her that lies always come to light. And I knew exactly how to do it. The package was ready. I had prepared it with almost ceremonial care, selecting each item with surgical precision. An elegant white box, the kind used for important gifts. The irony wasn't lost on me. Inside, I first placed a folder with copies of the birth certificate and the DNA tests I had done that week. The results were unequivocal. Antonio Delgado, the man who raised me, didn't share even 0.1% of my genetic material. I also included photographs of Ernesto Vega, my real biological father, in which our undeniable resemblance was evident. Then I added copies of all the letters Ernesto had written to me over the years. 30 letters full of love, longing, and sadness. Letters that showed a man who really wanted to be part of my life but had been systematically excluded. The central element was a letter written by me. I had spent 3 nights drafting it, making sure every word was exactly what I wanted to say. It wasn't a hate letter, although it would have been easy to write one. It was something much more powerful, the naked, unadorned truth. Finally, I included a small jewelry box. Inside was the ring Mom had given me on my 18th birthday, telling me it was a family heirloom that had belonged to her grandmother. It was the only thing that had made me feel truly part of the family. Now I knew it didn't belong to me. I closed the box and wrapped it in silver paper. I tied a blue ribbon, Mom's favorite color. I wanted it to look like a gift, something special, because it was, in its own twisted way. The timing was crucial. The following week was the annual fundraising dinner for the bridge club Mom belonged to, an event attended by the cream of her social circle, people whose opinion mattered to her more than anything in the world. The perfect setting. I hired a courier service that would deliver the package exactly at 8:30 p.m. when they would be in the middle of dinner. I gave specific instructions to the courier. He had to deliver it personally to Elena Montes, my mother, and say it was a special gift from her daughter who couldn't wait. At 8:25 p.m. on Saturday night, I was sitting in my car at a safe distance from the social club, close enough to see the entrance, but not so close as to be seen. I saw the courier arrive promptly. After identifying himself with the security personnel, he entered. I waited, my heart beating so hard I could feel it in my ears. At 8:40 p.m., my phone vibrated. It was a message from Lucia, a former schoolmate who happened to be at the dinner that night. I had asked her to let me know when the delivery happened, without giving her details of what the package contained. Package delivered. Your mother is opening the box now. Seems excited. I could imagine the scene, Mom smiling, thinking it was perhaps my way of apologizing, of returning to the family fold. The curious looks of her friends. The murmurs of expectation. 3 minutes later, another message. Something's happening. Your mother has turned white. She's run to the bathroom. People are confused. Good. Exactly as planned. The next message arrived 7 minutes later. She's back in the room. She's crying. Trying to hide it, but it's obvious she's devastated. Roberto just arrived and is talking to her. They seem to be arguing. We're all uncomfortable. My phone rang. It was Roberto. I rejected the call. Another message from Lucia. They've packed up and are leaving. Your mother can barely walk. I've never seen her like this. Part of me felt a dark satisfaction. For once, she was experiencing a fraction of the pain I had felt all my life. The public humiliation. The rejection. The truth exposed, unfiltered. But another part felt a strange emptiness. Revenge didn't bring the peace I had hoped for. It only confirmed that that family had never really been mine. In the letter, I had written in detail everything I knew. I had told her about my meeting with Aunt Eugenia, about Ernesto's letters, about the DNA tests. I had written about 32 years of feeling out of place, rejected by the person who was supposed to love me unconditionally. And at the end, I had written what I really wanted her to know. I'm not sending you this to hurt you, although I know it will. I'm sending it to free myself, so you know I'm no longer a prisoner of your rejection. I've found my true origin, and with it, my freedom. I don't hate you, Elena. I pity you because you're the one who lost the opportunity to know and love your daughter. I only lost a mother who never was. The following days were a whirlwind. Roberto called me 20 times. Isabel, my sister, who apparently didn't know the whole story, sent me confused messages asking for explanations. Miguel, always the family diplomat, wrote me a long email trying to mediate, saying we had all made mistakes. I didn't answer any of them. I had said everything I needed to say in that letter. Now I had something more important to do. The phone number on Ernesto's last letter still worked. When I heard his voice on the other end of the line, I felt something strange in my chest, a mixture of nervousness, longing, and fear. Hello. His voice was deep, with a slight accent that betrayed his years in Spain. Ernesto Vega? Yes, this is he. Who's speaking? It's Carolina. Carolina Delgado. You're my daughter? The silence that followed was the longest of my life. I could hear his ragged breathing, as if he were struggling to maintain his composure. Carolina, my God, is it really you? Yes, I found your letters. All of them. I know the truth. I heard him cry, a deep, shameless cry that came from the soul. I've waited for this moment for 32 years, Carolina. Every day of my life, I've thought of you. I've imagined what you would be like, what you would enjoy, what path you would have chosen. I told him everything about growing up feeling different, about Mom's treatment, about the recent discovery. I didn't omit anything. He also told me his version, how he had met my mother, how they had fallen in love despite the fact that she was married, how he tried to take responsibility when he learned of the pregnancy, but she refused. He told me he had respected Dad's decision to raise me as his own, but that he had never stopped thinking about me, that he had followed my life from a distance through mutual acquaintances, that he knew about my college graduation, my first job, my achievements. At the end of that long call, he invited me to Madrid. He wanted to meet me, introduce me to his family. He had a wife and 2 children, my half-siblings. Show me his restaurant. 2 weeks later, I was on a plane to Spain. The mix of emotions was overwhelming: fear, expectation, hope. When I walked through the arrivals gate at Madrid airport, I recognized him instantly. He was older than in the photos I had, with completely white hair, but his eyes were exactly like mine. He was holding a sign that simply said, "My daughter, Carolina." I ran towards him without thinking. We hugged as if we wanted to recover 32 years of lost embraces. There was no awkwardness, no strangeness. It was as if a part of me that had always been incomplete had finally found its missing piece. I don't know how long we stood there, embraced in the middle of the airport, crying and laughing at the same time. People were looking at us, some smiling at witnessing what was clearly an emotional reunion. The days in Madrid were like a dream. I met Lucia, his wife, a warm woman who hugged me as if she had known me all her life. I met my half-siblings, Alejandro and Sofia, who had my same smile. I met Ernesto's restaurant, a small, cozy place where he cooked dishes from his native Galicia. During those 2 weeks, I felt for the first time what it was like to truly belong to a family. What it was like to be loved unconditionally, accepted completely. What it was like to have a father who proudly showed photos of his daughter to all the customers who came in. The day before returning home, Ernesto took me to a small coastal town. We walked along the beach in silence, enjoying each other's company, until he stopped and took a small box out of his pocket. "This is for you. It's a ring that's been in our family for generations. My grandmother gave it to me before she died so that I could give it to my firstborn daughter. I always knew that day would come." The ring was simple but beautiful, a gold band with small blue stones embedded. I put it on, and it fit perfectly. Now you have something that truly belongs to you by right. Something that connects your past with your future. When I returned home, I had a new perspective on life. The pain was still there, probably always would be, but now it was accompanied by something new, the certainty of being loved, of having a place in the world. Roberto was waiting for me at the airport. I hadn't told him I was coming back that day, but somehow he knew. He looked older, more tired. "Mom is devastated, Carolina." "What you did?" I stopped him with a gesture. "I didn't come here to talk about that, Roberto. I came to tell you that I forgive you all. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. I have found my true family, and that has freed me. I no longer need your approval or your love." I saw his eyes fill with tears. For the first time in his life, my older brother seemed truly remorseful. "We failed you. I failed you. I'm so sorry." "I know. But life goes on, Roberto. Mine certainly will." I walked away without looking back, the ring from my real father shining on my hand. For the first time in my life, I walked tall, without the weight of feeling unwanted, without the burden of seeking a love that would never come. I had found my truth, and with it, my freedom. Sometimes families are not the ones we are born into, but the ones we find or build along the way. My story might seem like an extreme case, but how many of us have ever felt like we don't fit in, that we are different, that there is a secret that everyone knows except us? The truth can hurt. It can shatter the foundations of what we believed to be real. But it can also liberate. It can open doors we didn't even know existed. Today, 5 years after that Mother's Day that changed my life, I can say that I am at peace. Ernesto, my father, comes to visit me 3 times a year. I have a close relationship with my Spanish siblings. I have built my own family of friends and loved ones who accept me for who I am. And my biological mother. I haven't seen her again. I know from Roberto that she never fully recovered from the public exposure of her secret, that she lost friendships, prestige, the image carefully constructed over decades. Part of me feels compassion for her. Another part knows that every action has consequences. What would you have done in my place? Would you have sought revenge, or would you have opted for silent forgiveness? There are no right answers when it comes to protecting our hearts from those who should care for them, but choose to break them. I only know that sometimes the greatest act of self-love is to walk away from those who cannot or will not love us as we deserve. And that true family is not always the one you are born into, but the one you choose, and that chooses you every day. Sometimes, in the most painful twists of our lives, we find the truths that set us free. The rejection of a mother led me to discover the love of a father who was always waiting for me. It is not the wounds that define us, but how we choose to heal them. True family is not always the one related by blood, but the one that chooses us with the heart.